Welcome to I don't know what edition this is,
We've done so
but
many now.
yeah, exactly. Pop Culture Pastors Hour, and we are wrapping up the trilogy of Charlie Brown holiday specials today, uh, as we do the Charlie Brown Christmas special, and we'll kick into that in just a minute. But I'm Edward Good, and I write at Magna Scriptura on Substack, and I'm
And
here
I'm
with.
MaryAnn McKibben Dana. I write at the Blue Room and Substack as well. And from time to happy time, we come together and chat about pop culture, science fiction, movies, TV, songs, all kinds of wonderful, whatever tickles our fancy.
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah,
And I don't think we can do like a share screen or pictures or
yeah,
anything like that here, but we also ran the Turkey Trot 5K together
that's right. That's
in
right.
Northern Virginia this past Thanksgiving Day. So
That's right. Ed was
and if
here
it
visiting family. So
yes, and if it wasn't for me stopping to try to pet some very cute dogs, we would have been under an 11-minute pace. Um,
That's right. We were not running
so
for time. We were running for fun, and that meant
yes,
we could stop and greet dogs
exactly,
and say
exactly.
hello to them.
That's
So,
right. So,
yeah.
hey. Anyway, yeah, so we are as I said, finishing off the uh trilogy of Charlie Brown. I know there's a lot of other Charlie Brown specials, but really these are the three.
They really are.
It's kind of like the Star Wars saga, that there's a lot of other Star Wars stuff, but really there's the core.
Yes.
But so wanted to start off though with us being in the middle of Advent, or early in Advent, I guess is a better way to put it. And there's an article that we'll put in the show notes that talked about the bouginess of how essentially capitalism has overtaken Christmas. And now it's overtaking Advent, so it was a great article reflection. We'll put it in the notes. But MaryAnn wanted had written in our notes of what our favorite advent calendars.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious if you have, I mean, they make so many different ones. I have a friend who had a bourbon advent calendar, just a little tiny mini shot of bourbon each day. You've probably done one of the Lego. Have you done a Lego advent calendar? I kind of feel like that would be a good
check,
snow
correct, yeah.
family activity. We've done
Hmm.
those. Um, and the point in the article, which you all can read, it was written by Wynne Collier, and we'll probably quote it in a couple different places. But he was talking about an advent calendar that was like a beauty products advent calendar. So every day you get a new lip gloss or you get a new concealer, and that's just feels weird for those of us who know this season to be about waiting. And it's not quite like Lent in the sense of penitential in the same way that Lent is, but it's not far off from that.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, I will give a shout out to one of my favorite advent calendars that I had. I think it was last year. My husband got me a tea advent calendar. So every day from our local tea shop, which is not far from where we live, gives us it was a little bag of tea bag with different flavor, different part of the world. And I liked that because it felt like, I mean, it is a little consumerist, but it also, every day I would sit and I would have my tea. And so it felt like it was in keeping with Advent. But I'm
Hmm.
curious if you have a favorite Advent calendar or your thoughts on those kinds of products in general.
Well, so yeah, it is kind of ridiculous of how many there are now. I
Yes.
even saw ones actually I think I saw these in Target in October, that it was, and I don't think it was called an advent calendar, but it was essentially the same thing counting down to Halloween.
Oh my.
I was like, dang. Um,
It's gotten out of hand.
I know. But the what we always did with our kids when they were younger was we actually got the fair trade divine chocolate advent calendars.
Yes.
Um, and so it wasn't just like the cheapo chocolate ones that, you get. So that and it was just one of those things that we kind of helped introduce them to the concept of fair trade, but also had the chocolate and all that.
Nice.
But last year we got the Penzies Spices Advent Calendar
Oh,
that there's a little bag of spices each day, and
nice.
we've not gotten through all of them. There are some that are, like some was like Turkish spices or something like that, which is a pretty unique type of
Mhm.
thing for.
Yes.
But yeah, that was great, and
Yeah. I could see that. That's a good, not unlike the tea, it's like, let's encourage cooking, family togetherness. That is a kind of a thing that you get a lot of this time of year,
yeah,
the sort of, gathering around tables. So
mhm,
I will allow it.
allow it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and if any of you have favorite advent calendars, either ones where you were like, "This is just way too over the top," or just ones that you enjoy each year, or that you've bought in the past, yeah, let
Hmm.
us know what you're
Yeah,
loving these days. So,
absolutely. All right, shall we
all
jump into
right.
Charlie and
Yes, it's time
Friends?
for
Yeah,
Charlie Brown, yes.
yeah.
So do you wanna start off with kind of you really I'm looking at the notes, sorry, I dropped something here. There it is. You really dug into the commercialism aspect, which is a good segue from advent calendars into that. So, I don't
Hmm.
know if you wanna start there, or what's your initial
Well,
impressions watching it
yeah.
this time?
So there was I used to work at a Hallmark store. That was one of my early jobs.
No
Um,
kidding.
yeah, I was the stock room guy.
Oh my
So I was
gosh.
generally wasn't out on the floor,
Okay.
um, I remember just kind of having this irony of the show that is really so much is about getting away from the commercialism of Christmas, of the metal Christmas trees and
Yeah.
the the decorating contests and everything else. That there was, you could buy a toy Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and
Of course.
we actually it is a beloved set that we have. We do have a Charlie Brown uh, family or Charlie Brown Christmas or Charlie Brown Nativity set.
Oh,
It's
wow.
very sweet. It's also incredibly fragile because all their necks are tiny, and so
Uh-huh.
I think half of them have had their heads broken off at this point. Um,
It could be like
it's
the Nightmare Before Christmas
something,
Charlie
yeah,
Brown.
yeah. So only there's only so much super glue can do with some of those.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but anyway, I just there was just the irony of that
Yes.
it is so anti-commercialism of Christmas, including, and we'll get into this too, including bringing in boldly the religious story.
Yes.
Um, and then we've just taken it and commercialized it all over
Yes.
the place.
Right. Right.
Um,
I
yeah.
was just at but right before this, our local multi-faith clergy association for this area, and it's, we have a Muslim layperson who joins us, and others, and he was just saying that he enjoys this time of year. That he obviously doesn't observe Christmas, but there's just kind of a nice vibe in the air. And one of our other members, who's also works at a Christian church, said, "I'm really glad to hear you say that, because Christmas can so much be the just huge hulking, monster in December, that it actually gives some good vibes." But I think some of that is maybe in spite of the big commercial aspect to this. And yeah, I was struck watching it this time on that note of the tension that we now have with this special, which comes around every year, and there's so much merchandise around Peanuts and the Charlie Brown gang. But even when they tend to this little Charlie Brown tree, they take all of the instrument, or all of the ornaments off of Snoopy's house that he won the award, the decorating, and that's what kind of bolsters this little Charlie Brown tree and makes it this pretty thing. And I thought that's an interesting image there. I mean, you have Linus's blanket around it, so it gets nurtured. It's very kind of homey and kinda loved. It's like, they hug this little tree, but then they hang all this stuff on it, and that's what makes it kind of perk up and look nice, and I thought that's just kind of an interesting, I don't know what to do with it, but it's kind of an odd symbolism of what's going on there, in that commercialism stuff. Um,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember a couple years ago, I walked by the Apple store in Cincinnati, and they had these signs, the big, Apple-looking, banners out in the windows, and I can't remember exactly, but it was like, in Christmas kinda colors and theme, but it was like, "Find wonder and awe inside," or something like that, and I
Oh,
just was like, "Wow."
yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
yeah.
that's I mean, that's the thing about, I was struck this time. I mean, I think it relates to all this commercialism stuff, and is this really what we're willing to kind of settle for in terms of awe of this season, of the awe of the Apple Store? That when in the very first minutes when Charlie Brown says, "I know I'm supposed to be happy, but I just don't feel it. I just kinda get depressed around this time of year," and I think it's Linus who says, "You're the only person I know who can turn Christmas into a problem."
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I think you probably know people too, Ed, like, as pastors, but just as people living in the world, there's a lot of people who are down this time of year. Like, he is by far not the only one, and probably the reason it is, I mean, this is the 60th year. I noticed that it was 1965 that this special first aired. So what has allowed it to persist all these years? I would argue that some of it is just naming maybe that thing that a lot of people feel, which is it can feel so oppressive this time of year. Like, it's supposed to be jolly, it's supposed to be ho ho ho, and he's just saying what a lot of us are thinking in my
Mhm.
mind.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, he used that, classic word of, I'm not feeling the way I should feel.
mhm,
And
right,
and I just how often I have said to others and said to myself of like, "Stop shooting on yourself."
exactly.
Um, and, whatever it's about how you feel at the Christmas season, about shame, about guilt, about
Right.
grief, about whatever,
Mhm,
that, there are these things that we have this mentality that this is how we are supposed to feel and
mhm.
experience a season or a
Yeah,
time or what have you. And when we don't do that, is what's wrong with us?
right,
Um,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to invite Charlie Brown to our longest night service. Do you all have those, or have you participated in
Oh
them in
yeah.
the churches
Oh
you've
yeah.
served? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for those who don't know, on the longest night of the year, the 21st or somewhere around there, many churches will have a service for people who are not who are maybe feeling a little Charlie Brown, whether they've lost a loved one or they've lost a job or they're estranged from family or any of a host of reasons, or maybe just,
Not feeling it.
not feeling it.
Hmm.
Um, a quiet place to acknowledge that and to just uh, let that experience be honored and ministered to. It's
Hmm.
one of my favorite services of the year. I
Hmm.
love the longest night. So,
Mm.
so yeah, Charlie Brown maybe needs a little longest night service, but instead he goes to talk to Lucy,
Hmm.
who offers some advice. And one of the things that I was just really, captivated by this time, and she says, after this kind of funny thing of, "Do you have the fear of cats? Do you have the fear of," pantophobia, the fear of everything? He's like, "Yes." But she says, "You need involvement. How about some involvement?" And that is actually really good psychological advice. When someone's feeling a little down, one of the ways to kind of work through that is to do something for someone else. And I wanna give that advice and, kind of cautiously because, sometimes you just need to care for yourself, and again, and I love your call out about shoulding, right? A lot of our when we feel down, it's because we have these expectations, which relates to our Thanksgiving episode, right? Peppermint Patty's expectations for Thanksgiving. But getting outside of yourself is actually really sound advice. And he takes her up on that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And granted, Lucy is, I don't know how old technically Lucy is, and obviously not a trained counselor, but there's also just sort of like I that there is sound advice to that, but it's sort of like, here's the prescription.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
there
She
isn't
takes
a,
it to the
hey,
Lucy level of like, let me tell
yeah,
you what that it means
yeah,
for you.
like, okay, so what is it about this season, Charlie?
Hmm.
Because we never
Yeah.
actually really get that in the show. We don't really get Charlie Brown saying. And by the way, is there any other characters who, like, it's weird to call him Charlie. It feels like we always have to call him Charlie Brown, but then everybody else is like Lucy, Sally, Linus,
Yes. Right.
etc. But anyway, side note.
Yeah. Yeah.
Squirrel. Um, but that we never really get why. What is it
Mhm.
about the season? Is
Yeah.
it, you know,
Right.
does Charlie, did Charlie Brown's dad die?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
he's being raised by a single mom, and it's always a
Hmm.
hard season because of that or something. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Um,
only hint we get, which I don't think is related because I think he talks about being depressed before he goes to the mailbox and sees that there are no Christmas cards for him. Um, so that could be a factor, but we don't know. And you're
mm,
right. So if we were to critique Lucy's pastoral kind of skills, maybe she shoulds on him, right? Here's what you
mhm,
should do.
mhm,
So the it's not she's not off base in the sense of that can help us get out of a funk. And I know people who, like, when they get like, this time of year just feels ick, and so they go volunteer somewhere, and they're like, okay, I'm in the Christmas spirit now because that's really what it's about, is doing things for others. Um, but yeah, she does it in a very Lucy way, which is it also serves herself, right? Because she's the Christmas queen in the show, so she wants the
mhm.
show to to go on. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, she's not off base too much there.
Mhm, mhm.
And then he just
Yeah.
really throws himself into it, doesn't he? As the I don't know if you related to this. I was a very like serious child, and when there was like a task to be done, I would do it. And so I really resonated with Charlie Brown in this because he's like, okay, here are the stage directions. I'm gonna make these different motions to mean different things, and just no one is listening to him. And that was very relatable for me. I guess as one of those who was just born old, it's like, look, we're doing a thing here. Why are you all kind of dancing around and not taking this seriously?
Mhm.
So that might just be me, but yeah,
Born old. I love that. Born old.
I was an old soul, as so I was told. But anyway,
Yeah,
he could also loosen up a little bit, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Oh, we all probably can.
Yeah.
So,
So
um, I so on the pageant, I do wonder, like, what was the pageant gonna be? Like, you know, like,
yes,
'cause you had, like, a Christmas queen, but then you
right.
also had, Pigpen's gonna be the innkeeper, and,
Hmm.
like, what is this thing? And,
Yes. Yep.
it kinda got me thinking of, y this is, I think, this year. So, the church that I'm in right now, we're not, there isn't a Christmas pageant, Christmas program type of thing happening. Um, but, in other churches where I've done that, it there's kind of this element of, like, it's not really as much about the story as much as it is like the cute kids on stage,
Yep.
and, the little kids dressed up as sheep and
Mhm.
angels and things. And it flashed me back to the my one of the most funny parts of a book that I've ever read, which is the Christmas pageant in A Prayer for Owen Meany.
Mm.
Um, uh, have you read that?
I've read it, and I think
Okay.
we've talked about it on one of these, but
Yeah.
I don't remember the pageant well. So yeah,
It
do
is,
tell.
well, it's hard to go into, but just it is so funny,
Yeah.
of just everything that goes sideways and wrong and goofy, including Harold Lautner getting stuck on the cabling for the angels to fly in from the ceiling of the sanctuary and stuff like that. So,
Amazing.
um, Yeah.
Yeah, there's Christmas has so much baggage, good and bad, that is attached to it. And also it looms so large in our culture that it's just right for humor and those kinds of scenes that you're describing. And and also maybe even the Peanuts kids kind of dancing around. Maybe that's okay because that
Hmm.
needs to be part of it too. What just came to my mind, this is a little bit of a digression, but I have a friend who, like, the first church she served, on Christmas Eve, she didn't have a television, and so the church decided they were gonna give her a TV, like, as a Christmas gift, and so, like, they're finishing up the Christmas Eve service. I think they even have, like, the candles going with Silent Night, and some members of the church are wheeling this cart that has a TV on it down the middle aisle toward my friend to say, like, "Merry Christmas, here's your Christmas gift." And, I mean, the way she tells the story is even more hilarious because, she's just, like, in this kind of moment, and then here comes this TV. And I kid you not, like, most years when I'm sitting up there with my candle, and I'm about ready to do the benediction or whatever, I can just imagine a TV coming down, the middle aisle to meet me. So, this is the silliness of this holiday. It means everything to us, and it also is just thoroughly just silly,
Hmm.
with all of the stuff that we hang on to it. So, anyway, yes, their
Well,
pageant.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and then the pageant gets interrupted with
yeah.
Linus.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
I know Charlie and Linus go off to go get the tree and,
Yep,
all that
yep.
stuff. Um, but then Linus just steps in and
Yes. Yeah. And I
yeah.
I don't remember, it might have been you that sent me this article that was, I think it came out last year, but it was about this special. And again, it came out in 1965. I think it was the reason it was created, I mean, talk about commercialism, is I think it was Coca-Cola or something. They wanted a holiday special that they wanted to be able to sponsor. And so they went to Charles Schultz and the Peanuts folks and were like, "Could you put this together for us?" So, boy, talk about subversive, right? I mean, you know, we want this to sponsor this special, and the special is all about commercialism and can we find the true meaning of Christmas, which is not Coca-Cola. And yet the Coca-Cola Santa is the Santa that most of us think of when we think of, I mean, like, really big beard with the, kind of apple cheeks. And anyway, so, um, and it was very important to Charles Schulz to have that part of Luke 2, 8 through 14 or so, that really tells the heart of the Christmas story. And they showed it to the execs and they were like, "We don't love this. We really are not thrilled that this is in here, but it was too late to change it," basically. They
Mhm,
didn't like that, and they weren't sure about the Vince Guaraldi score, which,
mhm.
it just goes to show they don't know what they're talking about because that is the most iconic part of the whole thing, right? The music is amazing. But anyway, yeah, you were talking about the Linus's presentation.
Yeah, and it was something, and I'd actually forgotten about the blanket thing.
Ah,
Marianne put in the
yes.
notes about, do you wanna speak to that?
Yeah, and this is not original to me. I have to give a shout out to my friend Catherine, I think was the first person who Catherine Johnston is a pastor in Pennsylvania. First
It
one to
was one
point
of
this out to me.
it was one of our bridesmaids, by the way, in Amy and My Wedding.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Oh, we've never made that small world
yeah,
connection. That's very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That Linus loves his blanket and in fact fashions a way to keep the blanket even during the Christmas play because he's going to make kind of a shepherd's kind of um, hood or whatever you call those things. But he's holding onto the blanket when he's telling this story, and he drops the blanket when he says, "Fear not, for I bring you good tidings of great joy." And as I wrote in our show notes, like, many a sermon on Christmas Eve has been preached on this idea that this security blanket that he keeps when he's feeling anxious, he is able to drop it at that moment because of the good news that he doesn't need to be afraid. I actually have not preached that because I don't preach all on Christmas. Even when I'm the senior pastor or the solo pastor. I don't usually preach on Christmas Eve. I think the story preaches itself, which I think this special kind of shows us an example of. Like, no commentary needed. There it is. The story it speaks for itself. But anyway, yeah, thoughts about our dear Linus.
I so I was watching for when he picked it back up also
Oh, yeah, I
after you
didn't pick
said
that
that.
up. Yeah.
But they actually don't show him picking it back up. All of a
Oh,
sudden, there's a there's a shot of him. Sounds like they're got the video camera on real kid named Linus, but
yeah.
from the side, and he doesn't have it. And then the next wide shot from the back of the auditorium, he's holding it again.
Interesting.
So it's just a quick little thing, and um, it's really not until really the last part of the story that it gets picked back up, or just is
Yeah,
magically back in his hands.
right.
Um, but there's maybe there's something of that, of like the moment that the holy breaks through,
Yeah.
that it isn't something that always stays with us.
Mhm.
It may be just there's that moment that for that 1 minute or that 30 seconds or whatever, Linus is able to let go of this thing that he's got with him all the time and holding on to.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and then he goes back to it. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
but but I think that is something I've experienced in my own journey of these major changes, or these moments often are not the long lasting. They're often you have that moment, and then kind of reality jumps in, and
Mhm.
you kind of go back, and then maybe you come back to it, and it just it's
Yes.
this.
And I
Yeah.
think that is such a I love that subtext. I hadn't even thought about when does he pick it up again, right? Because he doesn't let it go. He still has that security blanket that he needs, and that's such a good message for this kind of season that we're in. There are gonna be moments where you're gonna be in the parking lot of the mall just cursing at your fellow humans because they just took the last space, and then there'll be a moment of transcendence, and your words about how we should on each other and ourselves in this time of year. Linus, even in that just little subtle motion, give us permission to just where you are right now is okay. And you don't have to feel any kind of way. The way you feel right now is okay,
Hmm.
is all right. Um,
Hmm.
and and yeah, so and I think, I mean, one of the questions that I had for you, because the other people, the other kids are very like not wanting to kind of help Charlie Brown keep this play on track. They're dancing around. Schroeder's playing Beethoven on the piano, which has nothing to do with Christmas, as far as I know. Um, and uh, Something shifts in them, and they want to go out and help tend this tree. And part of it probably is hearing that story and being reminded of what Christmas is all about. Um, but but they change as well in
Hmm.
in in this process, and that's a beautiful thing to see. Even Lucy saying, Charlie Brown's a blockhead, but he did pick out a nice tree.
Hmm.
Um, so, and I meant to when we were talking about him picking out the tree earlier, or Lucy's advice to him that you need involvement. I noticed this time that he said, "I think this tree needs me." And so it's like he took Lucy's advice, like, "You need involvement." And she thought it was, "Now go direct the Christmas play." But it's like, "No, I need to care for this living thing that needs some nurture." That is the service that he really needed, and that's what
Hmm.
really transforms him is, you know, um, picking out the tree that's not aluminum. The living thing, right?
Hmm.
Not a play, not, anything else, just this little living thing.
Well, and
So
this little living thing that is hard to notice, in
right.
that, in that Christmas tree farm, whatever thing you
Yeah.
call it, with all the aluminum trees. By the way, have you ever seen an aluminum tree? I don't think I have.
No,
Um,
no.
but um, but that, is filled with all of these, and that there's just that one little one, and that Charlie
Mhm.
somehow notices it.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
and I know I'm, you know, s you know, showing my Enneagram 5, observer, um, type of thing, but, that, is there's that power in noticing little
Mhm.
things,
Yeah.
noticing the overlooked, um,
Right.
and again, that's something of this season,
Mhm.
of paying attention to those who may not be feeling it,
Mm.
may not be, ready to, right off the bat be singing joy to the world, with,
Yes.
full voice. Um, and that's what Charlie notices.
Mhm.
And so, um, yeah, I love that sense of that. My son sent me this thing that, we got about 4 inches of snow kind of across Ohio, earlier this week, and he's up at school in Northern Ohio, and he just sent us this picture of, this, chunk of snow on top of, like, a handrail or something like that, and someone had just put, like, an origami, uh, um, bird kind
Mm.
of in there, white paper on the white snow,
Oh, wow.
that he might not have that probably a lot of people would just walk right by and not even see, and Zach saw it and
Yeah.
sent a photo to Amy and me and was like, "Look what I saw." I was like,
Mm.
"Oh." Yeah.
So beautiful. That's so beautiful, and I think people, of course, it would be Charlie Brown and those, kind of I think there's something about sensitive souls in particular who do notice those things. The very thing that makes, I think, life hard for some people who do have those kind of sensitivities are also what's beautiful about them because they will notice things like
Mhm.
like the tree. Um, I did love Linus's line, "Do they still make wooden Christmas trees?" And I was curious, do you all do a live tree, or do you have an artificial tree? Because I do think those kind of come in and out of vogue. Like, there was a time I feel like that artificial trees, at least in my kind of circle of people, was really big, and now there's more, live ones, but
We, we always we had an artificial tree growing up, and then, Amy and I did live trees, for most of our time until we got our dog Scout,
Hmm.
and, I think 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row, Scout knocked over the tree, and
Ah.
some of that may also be the quality of us putting the tree up, but
Mhm.
that's a different topic, and so we went back to the artificial for now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. We
yeah.
we we do live, we used to have an artificial tree when our kids were young, and, we also switched to artificial. We had some cats that would like to drink out of the water in the tree thing, and that always made them throw up, so, yeah. The mundane and the profound, this is what the season is about, right? Um,
Mhm.
so, um,
So
yeah, what
there's one
yeah,
other
go ahead.
thing that so this morning, so I'm reading Brene Brown's new book,
Mm.
Strong Ground, which big shout out for it so far. I'm according to my Kindle, I'm 14% in, so,
Alright, so far
it's
so
about
good.
where so far so good. But this morning's was, sorry, my sister just texted me that there was also a time we had an electric train that went around the tree, and our dog, at the time, one year while the train was running, went and sniffed at it and got zapped.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, like, it took a while for the dog to even ever go back into that room in general. But after
Amazing.
that, there was no attacking
Oh
the
my
tree
gosh.
the train again. But, um, in this chapter that I read this morning, she talked about wanting to use this subtitle for the book called, and wanting to use the tenacity of paradox,
Mhm.
um,
Hmm.
in the subtitle. And, the gift of paradox, she writes, the gift of paradox is if we hang in there and tolerate the tension, grounding down and holding both ideas, a new and deeper level of understanding is born. Paradox is stubborn and never lets go. We are the ones who tap out.
Mm.
And and I want to kind of bring that back to kind of with Charlie Brown is he's willing to get into the paradox.
Mm.
Like this is what the season is. This is how I'm feeling.
Mhm. Mm.
And
Oh, I love that.
and
Yeah,
doesn't let it go. Like,
right.
he could have with Linus been like, yeah, yeah, I'm kind of being a jerk. Yeah,
Mm.
it's
Right.
probably gonna be, but he's like, no, I'm gonna go talk to the
Yes.
local shrink,
Uh-huh.
and um,
That's right. Pay my
uh,
pay my nickel.
pay my nickel. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and I just that this morning I was like, whoa, um,
Mhm.
with
Yeah,
that.
the paradox requires honesty is what I'm hearing in that kind of idea, what you're
Mhm,
sharing in the Brené quote too. Like, so those of us who are willing to be authentic and to really name what's real are gonna have to deal with some messiness, that it's not all gonna just, nicely coalesce into some single coherent thing. You're gonna get the Christmas tree and it's gonna be a little wonky. Not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna if you love it, it becomes beautiful. I love that idea of
mhm,
the the tenacity of paradox, and that Charlie's willing to name that, Charlie
mhm,
Brown. It does feel weird to call him Charlie. I do think we need both names there, right? Yeah, um, and and I think one of the things that gets in the way of that truth telling is I was thinking as I was watching it is about traditions and you've probably heard this word traditionalism, which is like traditions are things that we pass down, we do year by year or regularly that kind of have a ritual to them. And traditionalism is the word I've used or I've heard people use to describe like we don't think about it anymore. We just do it. It's kind of the tradition devoid of any meaning behind it. And I was thinking about that as Schroeder is playing, Jingle Bells for Lucy, and she's like, "Play Jingle Bells." And he plays it with a flourish, and she's like, "No, Jingle Bells." And he finally right, exactly, plink, plink, plink. She's like, "That's it." And how many, uh, things there are in this season like that. I it needs to be the way I remember it.
mhm,
There's so much nostalgia that just gets shoved into this month, and some of that's really beautiful and some of it is just oppressive, right? You can't even play Jingle Bells with a different kind of sort of swing to it. It's got to be exactly the way we've always done it.
mhm.
And
Yep.
there's a lot of that in churches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so the ending. So I wasn't sure what if we were gonna do 45 minutes or however we were
Yeah, go
gonna do
for it.
today,
Yeah, we're good.
but but I wrote another little note in our notes today about that this being sort of like the redemption arc for Charlie Brown.
Yes, yes. I have a
That
take on this as well that kind of
Okay.
circles us back to bring all three of these specials together. So yeah,
Yeah.
go
So
there.
I think about, kind of how each one ends. So the Great Pumpkin ends with Linus shouting at Charlie, that
Right.
they're on the bridge and, you know, "Next year you'll see," and, so it ends with that. The the next and then Thanksgiving ends with them, well, actually, it ends with technically Snoopy and Woodstock having their Thanksgiving meal,
That's
but,
right.
the last you see of the kids is them in the awesome station wagon, singing,
Mhm.
going to but then this one has everybody together and
Mhm.
just singing, and, um, I just and it the thing that's interesting is that Charlie Brown, for as goofy as he is in these, and as in some ways kind of that traditional, like, I don't really wanna hang out with this guy, he's always
Mm,
gonna be like this,
mm,
but, like, he's always there with them.
mhm.
And he always seems to be at the center, and I just to get back to, I think, Marianne, you put in something of, let's see if I can find it, of the, um, finding oh, yeah, what leads to the friend's change of heart.
Yeah.
That there's a tenacity to Charlie Brown that,
Mhm.
you know what? yeah, I went into those doors, and you know what? I got a rock at the first one, I got a rock at the second one, I got
Mhm.
a rock at the third one, and
Yeah.
I just kept going.
Mhm.
And he does the same thing here is,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's blowing him off, but you know what? He keeps going at it.
Mhm.
And,
Yep.
um,
Yep. I
yeah.
love that. I love that take. And it reminds me, sometimes people have talked about this with Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore. Like, Eeyore is the melancholic in that kind of, that little cast of characters, and yet they still love Eeyore, they kinda hang out. I mean, Charlie Brown is like the Eeyore of the Peanuts, right? I mean, just the melancholy temperament that they kind of roll their eyes at, and they make fun of him, or they pull the football out like in the Thanksgiving special, but yeah, they're still there with him, and in the end, they do care about him. And my kind of unifying theory of the 3 Peanuts specials is similar and I think related, is, you know, this time when I watched The Great Pumpkin, Linus is like, "The Great Pumpkin goes to the most sincere pumpkin patch." And this time, I really saw this dichotomy between, like, Sally. We haven't talked about Charlie Brown's kid sister, Sally, who has this long list for Santa, and she says, "I just want what's coming to me," which is just such a cynical, relatable for a little kid, because they at that stage, that's kind of what they're, where they are at. But I just want what's coming to me. And then you have Lucy saying, I don't ever get what I really want, which is real estate. So it's all just so transactional. And when you think about sincerity, like the sincerity of that pumpkin patch, Charlie Brown and Linus, I think to some extent, is the most sincere one. Like, I want this season to mean something. I don't want it to be about real estate. I don't want it to be about my long list of things from Santa. And he insists upon that. And he is rewarded for it. They're all there with him. They nurture his little tree and make it look beautiful. And they yell out, Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. Um, and so it's like we're back where we began. Like, the most that sincerity is rewarded, not with worldly things, but with spiritual things, with that community and the beauty of the song and the stars twinkling. So yeah, that's my I like the redemption arc that you brought up, but mine sort of is around his just authenticity and his sincerity.
And as you were saying that about them singing together, something I was enjoyed about Thanksgiving was when they're singing in the car, everybody's a little off.
Yes.
Like, you hear, like, somebody who's, like, a half a syllable behind, or
Right.
somebody's, that but here, it is like a choir, just
Yes.
perfectly with one
Mhm.
another,
Yeah.
and that.
Still children's voices, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
it's yeah, that is an interesting, yeah, I hadn't thought about how those two end, but yeah.
mhm.
Which is a great segue, maybe where we can leave it before we have something really fun planned next week that we'll talk about at the end. But as we close up Charlie Brown, I mean, just the music. Like, I have a kind of a top 5 Christmas albums that are my all-timers, and a lot of them are idiosyncratic, like, they were special to me at certain times in my life, and so that's why I like them. And this one, it is peerless. It is just perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so funny to me that the executives who previewed this 60 years ago this year were like, "I don't know about that music, man, jazz in a children's, kinda special, and would we still be." I don't know whether it stands the test of time without Vince Guaraldi. I might just be a thing, like one of those Rankin Bass, ones that, you know, we don't really watch much anymore, because this one makes it truly timeless,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
iconic.
yeah. I'm not one of my daughters would verify this quite vehemently. I am not a huge Christmas music fan. Um, so, like, for those who, as soon as, well, whenever they start it, or as soon as, like, the clock changes after Thanksgiving, it's
Yep.
like Christmas playlists, and whereas I'm like, okay, but the one that I will listen to over and over again is
Yeah.
that
Yep.
is this one.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable. And
Yeah.
you also noted just there's a beautiful simplicity. See, Beth, you need to start putting these things in the comments on here and not just texting me. She said
That's a
for
sibling
shame.
prerogative. That's
That's
okay.
right. She said for shame, Ed, for shame. So
I'm with
um
you, Beth. I mainline it for, I mean, just 24/7. Yeah.
yeah,
I get sick of it by the end.
yeah, there we go. Thank you, Beth.
There it
There
is.
we go.
There it is,
Well
Beth.
done.
Yeah.
But just the whole thing of just there's just the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
The animation, the colorful trees, the you put even, Pigpen kicking up a cloud on every line of Art the Herald. Um,
Yeah.
and I adore the ice skating on a pond.
Ah, I love that
And
song. Yeah.
the no, like but also like the literal part of they're just
The
ice
literal,
skating
yeah.
on the pond and
Mhm.
the catching snowflakes of,
Mhm. Yeah.
dissecting like the taste of early season
Mhm.
snowflakes and that there is that to me is the thing that um for this season is the thing that is so meaningful to me is
Yeah.
yeah, there's all the stuff, but how do we get to kind of the crux of it of
Mm.
what the story is.
Right.
And
Right.
like my favorite, we have a small collection of um nativities that we've gotten in different countries that we visited. And one of my favorites is one that I got in Cambodia that was made by women who were who had been rescued from sex trafficking, and they were in this place, and they were making different crafts, and they were learning different skills and things like that to get out of that life. And like the figures are literally just wooden pegs,
Mm.
and it's so simple and so beautiful, and
Mm.
just the meaning, where I got it, the story
Mm.
behind it, everything else. Um, but like that's the kind of thing. Like I don't want like the fancy, elaborate looking nativity. That
Mhm.
give me just these very simple
Yeah.
little pieces.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's something I think that's also something about this episode, this show is that it is so simple.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
It's what, 22 minutes, 25 maybe, and I mean, the music is, uh, very it's weird because I think it does have a simplicity. It's incredibly, intricate jazz music, but it also just has very unadorned kind of orchestration. A lot of it's just a little, just a piano with a little bit of upright bass and a little drum, just super simple, but carries so much beauty in it. Um, and yeah, so what can we say?
yeah.
We love the Charlie Brown Christmas. I did want to like call out this Win Collier article and just this Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Again, this will be in show notes. But just the first, he quotes Dietrich Bonhoeffer and says, "The celebration of Advent is possible only to those who are troubled in soul, who know themselves to be poor and imperfect, and who look forward to something greater to come." And maybe that's why I resonate and love Charlie Brown. So many people are feeling troubled in soul right now, and there's something powerful that I just appreciated on an even deeper level this year. Watching these images and this story that I've known my whole life. So it's wonderful to be able to unpack it with you, Ed. So next week we've got something fun planned. Here is our approach. Next, what are we doing next Wednesday? I think we'll send out a thing. Oh no, next Thursday. Next Thursday, 11 a.m. Pop Culture Pastors Hour will be back, and we are doing a game called Will It Preach? And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a big long list of different kinds of like songs from this time of year. TV, movies, different things like that. And we're basically going to draw out of a hat, and we're both pastors, so our job is to make meaning out of stories. and to, kind of find the deeper levels. And so we're going to say, will it preach? Will Die Hard preach? Will A Christmas Story? We're not going to go with the, like It's a Wonderful Life. That's too easy. Like that one just preaches itself, right? Some of these, but we're going to go a little off the beaten path and just do a little riffing back and forth. What would we preach if we needed to preach on Santa Baby? Or whatever gets pulled out of the hat. We'll see. It'll be, and if any of you all have suggestions of ones that you want us to take up, so that's what next week will be.
Yes.
Any
Yes. So yeah.
anything you want to add to that?
Well, it reminds me, and I didn't make this connection until just now. What in my last church, one of the things I did for about a year for children's sermons was, um, the kids when they came to church, they'd started off down in the Sunday school area, and then they would come upstairs. Um, I asked them to each week just bring something random from home, and they put it in a bag, and then when they brought it up, they brought the bag up. I would just randomly draw something out, and I would have to do the children's sermon on whatever that object was.
Improv. I love it.
Yes. I figured you would.
That's
And,
amazing.
yeah, thankfully, none of them were anything, like, really creepy or weird or, whatever, but it
Yes.
was super fun. I love doing it. So,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's
so this
great.
kinda reminds me of that a little bit. So,
Yes, I love it.
yeah.
So we'll do a little Will It Preach next week, and yeah, if you have any suggestions, let us know.
Mhm.
So yeah, with that, whether you are Charlie Brown just wondering what it's all about, or just waiting for your real estate to maybe this is the year that's under the tree.
Yeah. Or
We
if
hope
you're
you have a
Linus
good.
and you're telling the story.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Peace be with you and
Yes.
wherever you are in that story. And thanks, Ed. It was
Yeah,
fun.
thank you.
Thanks everyone
Always,
for being with
always.
us.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next week.
Next week. Woo. All right. See
Take
ya.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.